All right, welcome to the October 9th School Committee meeting. If you could all rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, if we could review and approve the meeting minutes from September 25th.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's 5-0. And we will turn it over to Mr. Myers with the report of the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two items on the report of the administration tonight. We're going to hear from our Director of Teaching and Learning, Ms. Boudiette, on a recent notification that we got from DESE, which is very good news, what we'd like to share with the committee and the community. But first, I would like to ask our Elmwood Street Elementary School principal, Mr. Corey Burke, to come up and introduce his new staff. Just lie down.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. I know my name's on this list, but I had an opportunity to be introduced last year, so we'll skip that one. But I am excited. I'm excited for a couple of reasons. One being that my list is so short, which means we have a tremendous staff here that has stayed here, that continues to work here. We do have a new instructional assistant in one of our preschool rooms, Janet Perez, and Janet comes to us with a ton of experience as a preschool teacher and a preschool aide, so she has been a great asset to Ms. Kim's room. Janet lives in Worcester and also has the benefit that she speaks Portuguese, so she's been able to help us with some of the translation with some of our families. So we're great, very happy to have her here. We do have here with us tonight our new office secretary, Ms. Abby Holden. Abby is replacing our secretaries who retired, both Robin Mazzoni and Lynn Isaacson. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Sociology from Worcester State University and was recently a research assistant at Worcester State University. And Abby lives here in Millbury, which is exciting. I know your thing's wrong. I wasn't going to bring it up.
Abby, I just want to thank you for not quitting after meeting Mr. Burke. Yes, good for you. Stick with it.
It's hard. Would you like to say hello or anything?
Hi, I'm Abby. I really like working here. It's a good, very good community, very good environment.
It's great to hear.
Thanks for being here.
Welcome aboard.
I'm sure the rest of the schools are great too.
And Abby is sharp. She is picking it up very quickly. Her and Peggy have already become best friends, which is the atmosphere we want in our main office. So she is a great asset. And then, unfortunately, the other person who couldn't be here tonight, our new assistant principal, Mr. Brian Richards. Brian's son has just earned himself a starting spot on the Millbury Willies football team, and they have a rare Thursday night game tonight. So he was torn, and I said, you need to go. You need to be there, and I'll apologize to the rest of them for you not being here. And we've got 90 days. We can still get rid of him. So I made sure he knew that too. So Brian comes from us from Bay Path, Regional Vocational Technical School. He was the school counselor there for many years. They had a ton of great things to say to him. Actually, I got some angry calls about stealing him from there. And when we did our search, I think a guidance counselor from a technical high school was probably not the first thing we were looking for. But that committee was blown away by Brian's interviews, by his fit, and he has not disappointed. He has come right in. He is a tremendous asset to our building. He fits right in with the culture that we've built here, the atmosphere that we built here, and his background is going to be a huge asset for us. So we're very happy and lucky to have him. And that's all I got for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Abby, thank you for
I'm
coming.
going to let Abby go home, and I'm just going to walk her out.
Nice to meet you, Abby.
Thank you for the tour, Mr. Burke.
Yeah, thank you. It was great.
Have a great night.
You too.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to the next item under the report of the administration. That's an update from our Director of Teaching and Learning, Ms. Liz Boudiette, about a notification that we received from DESE about our grades 3 through 6 MCAS scores. Ms. Boudiette?
So we are really proud to share that Millbury has been recognized by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education as one of only 63 districts out of 398 across the state to return to pre-pandemic levels of achievement on MCAS. We got this recognition in mathematics, which was something we were incredibly proud of because that's been an area we've kind of been looking for a little bit more growth in. So it was really nice to get recognized. The press release came out, and when we saw our name on the list, it was a really proud moment. Our students also achieved a student growth percentile of 55% in math, which is higher than we've seen in recent years and also higher than pre-pandemic levels. The piece that they looked at for the acknowledgement of the districts that they listed was around achievement, but I wanted to make sure we were looking at that growth piece too, because that's huge. What you can see in the executive summary is there's a breakdown there. If you look at those numbers, districts could fit into a couple categories. So you could fit into the category of being recognized for achievement in just math, in just ELA, or in both math and ELA, and we fit in that math category. This means that our students are not just meeting expectations, but they're also growing and achieving at really high rates. And again, it was just great to see that that growth is being acknowledged at the state level. It's also worth noting that we were very close to earning the same distinction in ELA. And our ELA growth rates are actually exceeding pre-pandemic levels already. What that kind of means when they talk about, people have asked that question, what is DESE looking at when they're looking at where you are now and kind of going back to that pandemic level or pre-pandemic level. So what they're looking at is that's kind of been the mission that they've put us on since COVID. They've looked at those 2019 scores, and so what they saw was when we did take MCAS again in 2021, it was that kind of that question of where are our students going to fall, right? We know they just went through this major disruption. Where are they going to fall? And so once we saw those scores, that was the mission that they put us on was we want to see you get on a road to recovery. So that's the path everybody was on at that time. They called it the recovery path. There was a whole analogy there. I believe we did a presentation on it here when we were looking at those MCAS scores. And once you are off the recovery path, you are now considered on the path forward, and that's where we are in that math category. So having, again, kind of recovered any learning loss that we had, and now we're looking at moving forward. I think for me too, thinking about the math category, that was the area that when students had lost some instruction, our ELA standards and our ELA skills follow a little bit of a spiral. They build upon each other. There's things that were taught before we had to kind of shut down our schools and go into this whole new way of learning. Those were skills that had already been taught, and we were bringing them back and practicing. When it came to mathematics, we're on a trajectory for a year, and so skills that we didn't maybe get to or had to teach in a very, very different way at a time when students weren't even sure how to access what we were putting out there to give them to access, that becomes then lost instruction a little bit. So that was the area that across the state, when we got those initial scores in 2021, there was the biggest gap there. Because it was this idea of now when all of our students come back, we can't not teach them the skills for the grade level that they're coming into, but it's acknowledging the fact that there were these pieces that weren't there. So again, for me, it's a huge accomplishment. It is an accomplishment that I want to make sure we are honoring our educators for. The way that they tackle instruction every single day, even when we didn't have COVID circumstances, is certainly exceptional, but their commitment to our students and meeting our students' needs it deserves to be celebrated. And this is something we need to give them the accolades for this distinction that we got, so.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it felt really good. It felt good, so, yeah.
And I believe the Sutton Chronicle picked up on this as a news item, and they said that maybe next week there would be something in there. So
Great.
I'm definitely watching for that,
Yeah,
Well, congratulations to you and all the staff.
to all the staff, yeah. They're, like I said, their commitment to our students has always been something to be commended, but certainly over these past few years.
Mr. Chairman, that closed the report of the administration for tonight.
Excellent. Let's move on to the report of the policy subcommittee. Mr. Tabor.
Yeah, so there were two different things that were on the policy subcommittee's agenda for today. The first one was policy IKKFE for the competency determination. I believe that there was a vote going to be requested for that tonight, but we would ask that that get pushed off until after the next policy subcommittee meeting. There is some language that needs to be adjusted a little bit. We're going to get that from, remind me who it was? It was...
So from Ms. DeLucia, the head of guidance, she's just going to give us something we can clarify in there and
Right.
present that.
So there's a couple of clarifications that we've already made, tightened up the language a little bit, and then once that language goes in there from her, then we'll bring it back to the school committee to vote on.
Table that one until the next meeting.
Yep. The second thing that we discussed was the cell phone and personal communication devices policy. That's another thing where we'd like to spend a little bit more time on it. We had a pretty lengthy discussion about devices and what constitutes a communication device, because obviously you can use anything from a phone to a watch to an iPad or a tablet. There's various ways to communicate over each of those different things, and we just need a little bit more time to kind of sort through those, because there's a lot of edge cases, and we want to be able to take those into account. And without, this was kind of our first rough draft of what that policy might look like, and so we just spent a lot of time discussing it and discussing the edge cases. So we will revisit that and come back to the school committee with a revised version of it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tabor.
Oh, may I interject?
Yes.
To add to what Mr. Tabor said, I believe we were going to send out a survey to teachers, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to comment on that, Mr. Myers is going to put together a survey to go to the teachers, ask them what sorts of things they use, they direct students to use devices for in class, what sorts of things they notice, and whether or not it's a consistent thing or it's a problem in any way, shape, or form, or something that may need to be addressed. Same thing with things like earbuds, things like that. So we're going to look at those and gather the information and make a better decision moving forward about the language that goes into this.
And since our last meeting, the state of New York has gone to no cell phones in classes too, so it'll be interesting to see if we can find the language that they used.
Yeah, we might be able to pull some language from that, but the Massachusetts has not formally voted on that through the House yet. It did pass the Senate back in August, but it hasn't passed the House yet. So there may be some things that need to be addressed, and we also know that there is likely to be some things where I'll say students are creative in ways around the policy, and so we may need to revisit it, in 3 months, 6 months, who knows?
All right, does that close your
Yes, it does.
report of the policy? All right. And turn this over to Mr. Bedard for finance and operation, and Mr. Mara.
Yes, yes.
Glad to see you're at the big table.
So the first two items, we'd like to ask Mr. Mara, our Assistant School Business Manager, to report out on some things he's been working on in terms of the NDE report and circuit breaker program, the reimbursement we're expecting. So, Pat?
Thanks, Rick. So I have the opportunity to talk about two things that we've been working on in the finance and operations. So first, we're going to ask the committee to approve the end-of-year report for fiscal '25. This is a comprehensive annual fiscal report that details all the expenditures and revenues for each district. And it's just a financial snapshot for the whole fiscal year, fiscal '25. Mr. Bedard and I worked closely on the report. I'm pleased to share that it was completed prior to the September 30th deadline. And, if it's something that can be approved this evening, it'll be certified by the superintendent, Mr. Chairman himself, and Town Hall as well before being posted on our website. I do want to take an opportunity publicly to thank Mr. Bedard for all his patience and support throughout the opportunity to produce the report. This is my first go-around doing the report, and Rick was instrumental in making sure that we have an accurate depiction of what our expenses and revenues were for fiscal '25, and I'm probably going to be a broken record, but I'm going to thank him maybe a million times between now and his departure, and ask him to hang on as long as he can, because I'm learning so much from him. So I do want to just say thank you, Rick, for all your help. And, the report really represents our commitment to transparency as well, and just responsible fiscal management, and something that we're proud that we've produced on time. And we're hoping that the committee was able to accept it this evening.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just add, I noticed that Mr. Mara said a few times that the report was completed on time because, and I've heard this from Mr. Bedard many times, most districts request an extension, and they're always granted. Mr. Mara took it on to make sure that this was done by the deadline, by the letter, so it's really quite an undertaking to have it in without asking for any extension.
And Mr. Mauer and I just came from a school business officials meeting today, and we discovered there are a lot of districts that ask for an extension. So we haven't done that for quite some time. So, and you might have heard me say this before, that, I did a time study on how long this report takes many, many years ago, and it takes 55, 60 hours of solid time to get everything into the report, and Mr. Mauer did it all this year. So I'm very proud of what he's done. He made sure it matched up to what we've done in the past. He actually looked for some shortcuts from some of the ways I did it in the past. So I think we're well on the way to doing this each and every year.
Any questions? Hearing none, could I have a vote to accept the fiscal year 2025 end-of-year report?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And don't worry, Mr. Mara, we will all be thanking Mr. Bedard quite a bit this year. But it's a unique opportunity to have somebody be able to learn this stuff on the fly and have that wealth of knowledge to be able to guide you when needed, so.
Yeah, I'm humbled every day by the amount of knowledge he has and the expertise that he shares, and I'm grateful to be on the other end of it.
Excellent.
So, Mr. Chairman, I do also have an opportunity to talk just about the circuit breaker numbers. As we head into our fiscal 27 budget development, we thought it was a good opportunity for us to, circuit breaker numbers just came out at the end of September. Just wanted to update the committee on, just a little refresher on what circuit breaker is, and kind of give us an understanding of where our funds are going to lie this particular year. So, circuit breaker is a program that helps districts offset the cost of high-cost special education placements. Anything that's over 4 times foundation budget, the state does help by reimbursing a particular percentage of those costs. So the percentage that was reimbursed this year was 75% for instructional and tuition claims, and 61.37% for transportation claims that were over 4 times the amount that the foundation budget has for each pupil. So for fiscal 26, the amount that we've been awarded is $957,202, which covers 15 students that we've claimed. I think it's important to note that these claims are from fiscal 25 expenses. So these are expenses that we occurred last year that Ms. Warren and her department have submitted to the state to ask for that financial assistance from them in the form of circuit breaker. So there's a 1-year lag on receiving the funds. So these funds will be distributed 4 times quarterly, or quarterly, which I guess is 4 times, sorry, throughout the fiscal 26 school year. But again, it does relate to our students from fiscal 25 that we've already paid for and things of that nature. I will say that just for context, last year we received $1.4 million for 21 students, and the year before that, $1.07 million for 20 students. So as you can see, the number is decreasing, which, from a special education standpoint, at the conference that we were at today, it was mentioned that approximately a panel discussed kind of some budget development, and about 1% of district populations is really an average of what would be out-district placed or outplaced in district. And, we have about 1,650 students. So that 15, 16 number is a little bit more in line than the 20 and 21, 24 that we've seen in previous years. So that number is kind of coming a little bit more in line with what the state sees as an average for out-of-district placements. That does impact the amount of circuit breaker money that is coming in to the fiscal year. So we do also want to just make sure the committee is aware of that number and how it's going down, but the number of students that are requiring that relief from the state is also going down. So just wanted to kind of update the committee in regards to the circuit breaker numbers. Those numbers are in your report, your executive summary, just for review. And it will be something that we'll be talking about during the budget development process as we talk about out-of-district costs, not only for fiscal '27, but beyond. So just wanted to give the committee a little update on circuit breaker. And certainly if there's any questions, we'd be happy to give them a whirl.
Through the chair. So if the numbers for the circuit breaker students are going down and the money that we're receiving for circuit breaker is lagging by a year, what happens to the budget when that turns the corner, I'll say, and goes back up? Because if we're getting paid for the previous year, we would get more money as it's going down, but then once it does turn the corner, like what happens? Like how does that?
Yeah, so great question. I think Mr. Berg mentioned some of that on his tour today, like those unanticipated costs that are, outside or above the that foundation number. I think when you look at the lag, I think it works in your favor in certain years, right? When the number is going down and you have a little bit of a kitty from the year before because it was higher. But then as you're saying, it does reverse the other way when you get more costs and you have less funds to be able to do that. So I think that's when you have to really have a strong relationship with our special ed department, and Ms. Warren and Ms. Cassione do a really fantastic job of tracking not only every student that we have outplaced, but students that are potentially going to be might need additional services, might need services in district that require a higher cost. And really just making sure that we know who we're paying for whom and who needs those services, so that we can operate within our own budgeting constraints to make sure that those numbers are accurate. It's really important that we have a clear understanding of what we're paying and what we're obligated to pay, so that when those swings happen one way or the other, we're fiscally responsible to be able to adhere to those costs. Obviously that would, in those upswings, it would require more in the fiscal budget itself, in the operating budget, the 001 school committee kind of budget. But it's something that we really try to be very fiscally conservative with, because it's such these costs are growing. And what we're noticing is, this year transportation was, as we mentioned, I think it was, I just had it up and there I go. 61% just for transportation reimbursement. Sometimes that is not that high, and you have to be able to kind of think on your feet in terms of making sure that the numbers are there to be able to support those students, because it is a very vulnerable population, and we want to make sure we support all of our students. So I think the question is very well in our minds in terms of the budgeting process and the fiscal, making sure that we're really working together so that we know who's coming and really planning to the best of our ability.
And through the chair, we also try to hedge the unforeseen by taking any end-of-year surplus money and prepaying tuition. That's one way to help. I know in some districts where they don't have that resource, and I've even heard of districts having to go back to town meeting in the fall, ask for additional funding because they had a move-in that they didn't anticipate. So we've done Mr. Bedard, Mr. Mara have been doing a great job of forecasting.
And we had just that 3 or 4 years ago, Mr. Bedard, where we started going up, but the lag year.
Right. Yep.
And during the budget process, it was an unpleasant conversation to have with Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairperson, can I just add a couple of just insights from special education? So when a district has more than 125 25% increase in expenses, so the 100% meaning, and then another 25% on top of that. There's also extraordinary relief for those districts, so that's something that we calculate every year in terms of meeting that area. Now, obviously, what you just heard, so our numbers have been going down, and so then that's not, so extraordinary relief isn't going to come into play, but if there are students who move in who have complex medical needs, so the student doesn't even need to be out of district if their costs are above $54,000. We track those expenses very closely, as Mr. Mara was explaining, and we can look, or we do look, to see if we're ever hitting anywhere near that extraordinary relief number where we would put in for that type of support from the state when things like that happen, when the student population changes in a way that puts an undue burden on the local community. So that is,
Yeah.
I think speaks to what you were asking too.
Yeah, I think my concern was really just about when that dip happens or when it turns that corner, how do we account for that in the current year's budget, knowing that some of the money that's coming in is just like, it's less than it was the year before, and we're expecting higher costs, especially given things like, we're about to be going through the budgeting process now, and like healthcare is a big problem. And so those costs are going up, and there's going to probably become a point within, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 2 years out, I don't know, but it will probably turn the corner and go back up in the other direction. And if we're dealing with multiple budgetary problems at the same time, like, how are we going to handle that? And it sounds like you guys at least are looking at it and are well aware, but you've got various ways of dealing with it, so.
And looking at in-district programming as well. So when our numbers come down, that's because we've been implementing programming for our students, like the Star One room that you saw. Not every district has that, right? And that when we can anticipate and plan for the programming for our students in our own home community, that is more cost-effective, as well as the preferred method, for what families are looking for. They look for that community and that support right here in Millbury.
And through the chair, our Job Like group at MASBO today had a panel on budget development, and I'd say 60 to 70% of that conversation was special education, because that is the most variable cost in budgeting forecasting that districts across the Commonwealth are struggling with, trying to ascertain how to do that better and to make sure that they're prepared for some of those swings like you're talking about.
And I think the other piece of that is a lot of the students that do get outplaced currently have a one-on-one aide. Because I believe the number of instructional assistants has gone up the last 3 years, so that also might be a reason why this outplacement is going down, because we're keeping them in-house.
100%. Having resources in district to support the student so that they can access the curriculum.
Any other questions?
And,
Mara?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just finish up on the financial report. We did want to apprise the school committee about federal funding in the school district, especially regarding the government shutdown that we're all hearing about. So obviously, we're very concerned, as we know you are, but we do want the school committee to know that a lot of what's going on with the shutdown right now does not affect this year's grants in terms of fiscal 2026, the grants we have for this year. Much of what you're hearing about may affect 2027 when we develop our new budget. But our regular grants, their entitlement grants we have for this year, the special ed IDA grant, early childhood grant, Title I, and the other title grants that we have for this year have already been awarded, or I know the special ed grants are about to be awarded, so we're about to get notice on that, and there haven't been any cuts, substantial cuts on any of those. So those are all in place, even with a government shutdown. The government shutdown and really some other things the U.S. Department of Education is doing will be affecting our 2027 grants. We're very concerned about that. But we're going to have a full report for you next meeting about, what we do have for this year's grants on the federal level. And what you'll see is, it's what we expected. There's no cuts made there, and they're still they're reimbursing us for that. So again, you've also heard about grants that they award, but then they don't give you the money for them. But we have, through our process with GEMS and DESI, the ability to get the reimbursement. So we're hearing nothing's being affected for this year's grants.
And hopefully future grants as well.
I'm sorry?
I said, and hopefully for future grants as well, but.
Yes,
we'll-
for future grants, and as well as the federal level for the school nutrition program too. So that's held in place for this year.
Well, thankfully, we have a lot of allies in the state legislature, who, Mr. Moore obviously is one of them, who keeps fighting for that free lunch, so.
And Mr. Chairman, on the next agenda, we're going to celebrate more of Senator Moore's advocacy for Millbury because he had 2 earmark grants that he was able to win for our community. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too.
Excellent. All right, does that close your finance and operations?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mara?
Oh.
Excellent. All right, we'll move on to unfinished business. One point of clarification on this first one, I believe this is going to be our first reading, correct? Because we tabled it last meeting.
We did. So I talked to Superintendent Myers earlier, and I was going to ask if we could refer this to the policy subcommittee for some revisions before we do a reading and vote on it.
I have no issue with that. All right, now we'll push back to the policy subcommittee on that. And next is the school roof repair replacement project update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not too much to report here, but we wanted the school committee to know that, we're scheduling, we're on schedule with our November 4th special town meeting. And you embedded in your narrative is the warrant for the special town meeting. And you'll see Article 9 and Article 10 that's regarding the project. One is regarding Article 9, rescinding some borrowing we talked about for the Shaw project. And Article 10 is regarding the project for the roof, HVAC, and solar PV at Elmwood in the high school, senior high school. So not too much to report. We did want the committee to know that we are continuing the work with our 2 project teams, Turva and Habib and Associates. So they're working on the design development, so taking the 10% design we have and moving it more towards a 90% design, which is closer to construction documents. So they're working on that. They're preparing bid documents, so we'll get to the construction documents, which would be the 90 to 100% documents, the blueprints, the narratives, all the specs that they need to do to show any prospective bidder exactly what they need to do. And we're doing that with weekly meetings with the whole team in order to determine how things are going to go. So all that's going well, and we are working towards, with project team on November 4th at the special town meeting. They're preparing to present to the town what we need, some of the things we've seen at some of these meetings we've had over the summer. So the team of Turva and Habib will be there to assist, I believe, Mr. Wilbur and Mr. Myers on the presentation. So all that is being prepared right now. So we're right on track. We've given them the oral go-ahead, at least to continue the work they're doing. Because as you know, with approval, and we hope there'll be approval November 4th and at the election, it's a tight time frame to get this, get this bid and ready for summer of 2026. But right now, everything is on schedule to do that.
And we'll have a school committee meeting the night of November 4th.
Prior, yes.
Yeah. So we just need to make sure we post that. Excellent. And that closes the unfinished business. Does anybody have any new business that they would like to see on a future agenda? Excellent. Just to remind everyone, our next school committee meeting will be at the high school with a tour starting at 6, like we did tonight here at Elmwood. And then the school committee will follow at 6:30. So with that, could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All, that would be a 5-0 vote, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.